You've probably heard some version of the quote, "There are no mistakes or failures, only lessons."
The greatest teacher, failure is.
And cheesy as it might be, it is true. We really do learn from our mistakes, but we can also learn from other people's mistakes. Like, one of my friends accidentally left her dog home alone without the lights on, so she didn't turn any lights on. When she got back, it was dark, and the dog, because he was pissed off, he pooped in her bed. And to make matters worse, she only discovered that he had pooped in her bed when she went to bed, and she laid in it. But hey, I learned something, because now I know if I'm ever gonna leave my dog and it's gonna get dark, make sure that a light is on, or I'm gonna get a poopy mattress. Because personally, I'm not a fan of sleeping in poop. I know that's a crazy take. I'm just so quirky for thinking that. But okay, poopy mattresses aside, I'm hoping to extend my metaphor to share with you guys my version of the angry dog mistakes in hopes that you guys can learn from them. More specifically, I want to share with you guys my top 10 worst financial mistakes in my 20s so far. Saying so far because as of this month in July, I have now turned 28 years old, so still in the 20s, but creeping up there. And your 20s are such a pivotal time in your life for so many reasons. There's usually a lot of change, whether it's graduating college, first job, first move, first big relationships. But the biggest thing I've noticed in my 20s is just that feeling of, oh shoot, it's on me now. I'm lucky enough that I do have parents I can call when I don't know how to get a car inspection or whatever other adult task needs doing, but there's still a weight of independence that I've never had before. Financially, this is huge for people. Your 20s might be the first time you have actual control over your own money. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's also the time in adulthood that can have the biggest positive impact on your financial future if you do it right. I say unfortunately because it does kind of suck that the time in your life where you probably know the least is also the time where it's going to make the most impact to do the right steps. But c'est la vie. By the way, even if your 20s are behind you, I still think that these tips are really useful to hear. I've seen a lot of folks on financial forums say they're sad because I'm starting too late, but that is a load of crap most of the time. For one, these people usually aren't even old, and even if you are older, say you're 75 years old, these money mistakes are still incredibly relevant. If we want to throw another cheesy quote in the mix, how about this one? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So let's start now. Cheers to better money moves for all of us. And with that, here are my top 10 money mistakes that I have made in my 20s. If you like videos on money and media, by the way, be sure to subscribe. I really like making this kind of stuff, and hopefully you guys like watching it. Okay, so I'm trying to organize these money mistakes in the logical order of when I first experienced them. And the first one that I would say I experienced, or money mistake I made, was not negotiating my salaries. Now, my first job out of college was at Disney World, making $10 an hour. I was part of the Disney College program. If anyone watching was also part of it, let me know your horror stories below. And there was zero room for negotiating pay. I'll be honest, it was a very informative time for me as a new grad to learn about how restrictive service jobs can be. I know that sounds wildly out of touch, but in many ways I was, and in many ways I still am. But in this job, I was paid $10 an hour with no benefits. I went weeks without a day off sometimes, and if I ever wanted to call out sick, I needed a note from the doctors, except if I want to go to the doctor's office and I was scheduled to work, I'd have to call out. No winning there. Anyways, after that job, I eventually started my career in my current industry, and I was hired at a startup of about 50 people. I did not negotiate any salary for that one, in part because I just didn't know how to do that, but also because I was so desperate for a job. And then the same thing happened at my current company when I got hired. Yes, I got a pay bump, but I didn't negotiate at all because the recruiter told me we don't do negotiations here, and I believed it, which was dumb. I eventually found out through talking to other coworkers that they had negotiated their salaries at the company, meaning we do allow for negotiations. I just fell for the line that they didn't. The problem with this is that negotiations help set the tone for how you'll be paid in your job, and more broadly, your career. Me not even asking about, say, a $10,000 higher base salary means that I miss out on $10,000 extra dollars a year, and every time I get a promotion or a raise, I'm starting at a lower level. I think that if an offer comes in below what you're expecting or what you know is appropriate for the market, it's worth a conversation to see if the company can meet your amount. I'm curious what folks think in the comments below on whether you should always negotiate a salary even if the offer is great, or if there are times where you should just accept accept whatever offer you first get. Personally, I kick myself for not even trying to negotiate because if anything, building up those skills of negotiation are just really important for my career. So that is the first big money mistake of my 20s, but the next one is rough, and that is that I did not touch my 401k or even know about it for years. Embarrassingly, I didn't even know what a 401k was for years. I had this vague notion that, okay, it's for retirement. I think old people talk about it. And call me old because, I'm talking about it now. For those who don't know, a 401k is a type of retirement account that is sponsored by your employer, meaning that if you are employed in a traditional 9-to-5 job, your employer likely allows you to contribute a portion of your paycheck to a 401k account, and sometimes your employer will even match some of your contributions. That right there is amazing if you have it offered to you through your company because it's essentially free money, so I highly, highly recommend taking advantage of it if you can. And 401ks have other great benefits, like the fact that they let you contribute pre-tax money, which can help you pay lower taxes that year, and they give you high contribution limits. But me, I did not take advantage of that amazing account for years. That first startup job I had a small contribution percentage set up that was running in the background, but I barely knew about it until I left the company, and even then it was a very small amount. By the time I left, the total was around $3,000. I know that's not awful, it's certainly better than nothing, but if I'd known more about the importance of investing for retirement when you're younger, I would have contributed a whole lot more. The problem is that I wasn't thinking about retirement. And honestly, it's easy when you're young, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, to think, oh, retirement is so far away. I don't need to be thinking about that yet. But that mindset sets our future self up for failure. I'm not saying that I throw everything into retirement these days, but I certainly do it a lot more consistently and significant contributions because I want my future self to be able to enjoy retirement when the time comes. I'll talk more about the compound interest element of that later, but it's also just about acknowledging that a 401k exists in the first place, something I was not doing. And another part is making sure that I don't lose track and accidentally abandon my old 401ks, which, you guessed it, is money mistake number 3. This is something that is not just a me thing. Unfortunately, it is very much an us thing. If you have ever worked for more than one company in your career, there is a very good chance you are currently making the same money mistake of accidentally abandoning your old 401k. For example, at my first startup job, I had my 401k account I barely knew about that had $3,000 when I left. Then, at my current job, I was given a new 401k account with my company and started investing in it regularly. But what I didn't do is bring over that old 401k money. It was like moving homes but forgetting a briefcase full of cash in the old safe. Now, that money doesn't disappear, but if you forget about it, which I almost did and many others do all the time, you're throwing out perfectly good money that you earned. As the New York Times writes in their article, your old 401k, out of sight, out of mind, and out of money, quote, as of June 2023, job changers had left behind nearly 30 million 401ks or similar retirement accounts worth an estimated $1.65 trillion, according to Capitalize, a technology company that offers an online platform to help transfer 401k accounts. As CNBC writes in their headline, quote, 1 in 5 Americans have inactive 401ks worth thousands of dollars. I don't think I need to spell out why this is such a disaster of a money move, and yet it is a mistake that is so easy to make. For someone like me who barely even knew what a 401k was, let alone was tracking all my old accounts, I had no idea that I was supposed to be rolling over these old 401ks to make sure they were all in one place. Luckily, there are really easy ways to do this, including the company that the New York Times article mentioned, Capitalize, which also happens to be today's sponsor. Capitalize offers the easiest way to roll over your old 401ks, and it is completely free. They help manage the entire process from finding your old 401k to picking a new IRA to dealing with your 401k provider for you. And if you're like, wait a second, why don't I have to pay these guys? First off, love that you're asking that. Always ask questions like that. And 2, Capitalize is able to keep their rollover service free because they're paid when you open an IRA with one of their preferred partners. If you think or know that you have an old 401k account floating out there and you need to roll them over, Capitalize is honestly such a fantastic service to use. Rolling an old 401k into an IRA provides really great visibility into your investments and fees, but it can be very tedious. It can mean calling old employers, faxing documents, trying to collect checks and hope that they don't get lost in the mail. But Capitalize does this all for you so that you can save time, ensure that everything is done properly, and you can have peace of mind that your retirement money is found and growing. I cannot stress how important it is to not become part of that group of 401k abandoners. So if you want to avoid my previous money mistake, go to highcapitalize.com/Cara to roll over your 401k for free today. And a huge thank you to Capitalize for sponsoring today's video. All right, so my next money mistake is a point of embarrassment for me, especially as I've learned more about personal finance, but I'm guessing that a lot of other people watching this video are in the same boat and are doing the same exact thing. And that is that I stockpiled cash for so long and never invested it. The problem here is that cash is not always king, at least when it comes to long-term wealth building. Yes, I want to have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Yes, if I'm saving up for a big upcoming expense like a down payment or a sabbatical, I'll probably want to have that in a high-yield savings account. But everything after that, I should not have been hoarding in a checking account. Because at inflation's historical average of 3.3% a year, money that's sitting as cash is losing value every year. In other words, $1 today is worth more than $1 in a year. So what I should have been doing is investing that money, because that is how I could hedge against inflation. Now, I already told you guys that I was bad at investing in my 401k for years, but it was not just my 401k. I was just bad at investing in general, as in I didn't do it. I knew I should on this high concept level, but I didn't really know what it meant to invest. Actually, my next video will be all about investing. I'm going to talk about what I mean when I say to invest and then how and where I personally invest. And I want to do that because I remember being so confused by the whole thing to the point where I just avoided any part of investing in the first place. I instead just let my cash reserves stack higher and higher in my bank account. I was like a chipmunk stashing away all my acorns. It sounds crazy, but I managed to save $100,000 before I finally started looking into how to invest and then started investing. And once I did, I was pretty bummed to not have started sooner because just like with the 401k situation, I realized that I'd missed years of amazing compound interest. And it's that underestimating of compound interest that lands me my next major money mistake. You see, the younger you can invest, the more years you have to take advantage of that sweet, sweet market growth. Money Guy has an awesome article on the idea of a wealth multiplier that shows you how powerful your age can be when it comes to how hard your money works. In their chart, you can see how at 20 years old, you only have to invest $95 a month to become a millionaire by 65. But by 30, it jumps to $340 a month. By 50, you're looking at needing to invest over $3,000 a month to be a millionaire by 65. I joke a lot on this channel that I love the compound interest calculator, but jokes aside, the love is real. Simply playing around with the calculator and understanding how my investments today will snowball into millions later in my life has been such a motivator for me. Like I said earlier in this video, it doesn't mean scraping by and living off just ramen so that I can increase my savings rate, but instead it's a reframing of what that money is going to. Instead of some nebulous concept of compound interest or retirement, I can think in real numbers what my money is becoming and how that equals buying back my time and freedom. That being said, admittedly, it's been a struggle for me to get comfortable not going full squirrel mode and tucking away every dollar I earn. And that brings me to my 6th money mistake, which is worrying way too much about tiny expenses, especially while I'm on vacation. Now, there's a balance to strike here, no doubt. I don't want to be someone who doesn't think at all about where her money is going, and I want to spend intentionally. But I've definitely had times in my 20s where the pendulum has swung way too hard the other direction, and I've been a Scrooge McDuckin to myself, obsessing over whether I should spend an extra $20 on this or that, and feeling stressed out if I spend money on something fun that I wasn't originally planning for. I've noticed this happens especially when I'm on vacation, and I think it's because because I already know that the trip is costing me more than my daily expenses because I'm staying in hotels, I'm eating out more, etc. Whether this is a surprise to anyone or not, I have been and still often am uncomfortable with spending money. But what I've learned in my 20s is that money is and should be used as a tool. Yes, it can be a tool for financial freedom one day, but it can also be a tool right now to help me create fantastic memories for myself. There's a concept in the book Die with Zero called memory dividends, which is the enjoyment and fulfillment you get from an experience even after the experience itself. As author Bill Perkins explains, quote, buying an experience doesn't just buy you the experience itself. It also buys you the sum of all the dividends that experience will bring you for the rest of your life. Perkins also frames it within the concept of compounding interest, saying, quote, due to compounding, your financial savings don't just add up. They begin to snowball. And the same thing can happen with your memory dividends. They also can and will compound. This happens whenever you share the memory of the experience with other people. This is something that I've been working to internalize myself, and I think I have gotten better about it over the years, because I don't want to feel a Scrooge McDuckin tantrum inside of me if I decide that getting fancy gelato while I'm in Italy sounds like a great idea. I want to feel joy that I'm using my money for an experience, not overboard to the point where I'm straining my budget, but also not holding my purse strings with a death grip. Though I say that, there are definitely times where I probably should have held on to the purse strings a little bit tighter. And that brings me to my 7th money mistake, which is impulse shopping and shopping as entertainment. Maybe this comes as a surprise to folks who have seen my other videos and that I'm always preaching about conscious consumption, but hey, I had to start somewhere. And so much of what I talk about in my videos when it comes to our relationships with money and spending comes from my own personal experience. Feelings I've had before and sometimes still do. And while I still certainly shop and sometimes buy something impulsively, I was a whole lot worse in my early 20s, especially right after college and during the pandemic. Right after college, when I was working at Disney and feeling stressed a lot, me and my roommate would go to Target or TJ Maxx for fun. That was our form of entertainment. And you know what? I loved it. I loved impulsively buying random stuff that I did not need or truly want. Things that looked cool and felt cheap, so I'd buy them. And clothing-wise, I definitely prioritized quantity over quality back then. My closet was massive. But then I remember watching Marie Kondo's show on Netflix along with the fast fashion documentary The True Cost, and something clicked in my brain. It was such a 180 for me because I went from going shopping for clothes every week or two to shopping for clothes every 4 to 6 months. And when I shop now, it's almost always thrifted. And you know what? That one change saved me so much money over the years, plus it reduced my carbon footprint. Honestly, the mindset shift that I had from watching those shows was so significant, and it's a big part of what inspires me to make the videos that I make now. Because I like to think that maybe there's someone out there like me who reframes their relationship with impulse shopping or shopping as entertainment so that it becomes one of utility instead, which in turn can save you money for experiences and your financial future. Speaking of financial future, let's return to the topic of investing for my 8th money mistake, which is all of the dumb investments I made at the start of my investing journey. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I love me a low-cost index fund. These are diversified stock portfolios with low costs, and it's what Warren Buffett is always recommending for investors. But low-cost index funds were not always my go-to. I fell into the trap that so many investors, especially first-time investors, get sucked into, and that was thinking that I needed to be some Wall Street guru or stock picker, aka picking specific companies to buy stock from, trying to play the game of buying and selling on a regular basis to get returns, and even getting into crypto because I'd read it was a good idea on Reddit and Twitter. I know, I was an absolute stereotype, and just like the Wall Street bet stereotype, I was mostly losing money on these investments. But I get why I was doing this and why so many others do it. When we think of investing, we have some Wolf of Wall Street image in our mind. We think of people yelling over each other picking stocks, or some mastermind who analyzes the market and sees trends before anyone else. And then we think, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. No. Even people who spend every hour in their career studying this stuff don't get it right. So unless we're Martha Stewarting it up in here with some insider trading, Why would we do any better? I'll talk more about investing in my upcoming video, but you should know that stock picking in crypto does not make a good diversified portfolio. It's risky, it's volatile, the stats are not in our favor when we do it this way, which is why nowadays I aim for 5% or less of my portfolio to be dedicated to these risky or fun investments. Everything else, low-cost index funds, baby. And guess what? They have so outperformed my stock picking days. Big mistake, but lesson learned. Now, my 9th money mistake is adjacent to stock picking, and it is that I am not diversified enough with my company's stock. But what's that mean? So for my 9 to 5, I'm paid with a base salary, a bonus, but I'm also given company stock every single quarter. So every 3 months, I'm given more stock, and I've worked here for a little over 3.5 years, so I've accumulated a good amount of stock. But I have never sold a single share. And now if I worked for a company like Apple or Nvidia that has done really well over the years, this wouldn't be a big issue. It still wouldn't be diversified and that would be risky, but my company has performed really poorly in the years. I won't name what company, but it has just made it so that I have all my eggs in one basket. If I had instead sold that company stock when I first received it as an RSU and put it into something like the S&P 500, I would have been a whole lot richer. And the issue with this isn't just the fact that my stock portfolio becomes a lot less diversified if I have a lot of one stock, but it's also because my income is coming from that same company. So say the company goes out of business tomorrow, not only do I lose my income with my 9 to 5, but all of my stock is now worthless. That's also why it's important to have multiple income streams beyond just your 9 to 5. And I'm not saying everyone has to have a side hustle like a YouTube channel, but even just having investments where you're getting dividends and growth every year, that can be another way that you're building wealth beyond your 9 to 5. And last but not least, my 10th money mistake of my 20s so far, drum roll please, is not being besties with automating my finances sooner. Not gonna lie, that statement right there made me sound like some old corporation trying to sound cool and hip.
Guys, W in the chat for automated finances, for real, no cap. Auto savings and investments have serious goody toilet risks.
Okay, backing out of the brain rot for a second, automating your finances covers a really wide set of things. From automatic bill payments to reoccurring investments to automated savings, and some of these I got a handle on earlier than others. Like setting up my credit card's auto payment was the very first thing I did after getting a credit card. But in my 20s, I have not been as good about setting up automated investments and savings. And that can be bad because it means that I'm not putting aside money very consistently. The reason automating your finances can be so great and not doing it can be such a money mistake is that automation can help you be more hands-off with your finances. Auto payments can help you avoid late fees and predatory interest, and automated savings and investments keep you consistent in growing your wealth over time. In the book Atomic Habits, author James Clear writes, quote, "Goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress." Automating is essentially building your systems. It's what helps you manage your money long-term so you don't have to constantly think about it. Instead, money can become more of a tool than a constant question, and you can get back to focusing on other parts of your life. This is something that I'm still working on implementing in my life, and I'm sure it's something that I'll revisit over the years, because financial health isn't just a destination that you hit and then you're done. It's a journey, just like taking care of your physical and mental health. While these are the worst money mistakes of my 20s, I am sure I am not done making money mistakes, but hopefully I'm also not done making money lessons and money wins. Hopefully I got a lot more money wins to come. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do any of these money mistakes resonate with you? Are there any that you've made that I didn't mention? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below and what topics you would like to see me cover next. Like I mentioned earlier, my next video coming up is all about how and where I'm investing. So if you want to check that out, make sure to stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you so much to my patrons on Patreon for supporting this channel and for those who donate on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you again to Capitalize for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to check out their link to roll over your 401k for free. Thank you guys all just for watching and getting this far. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.